Wow, welcome everyone. I'm really touched to celebrate today the legacy and the life of our dear Rebbetzin, Chaim Mushka. The Rebbetzin, every part of my, deepest part of my soul, when I read about her life, when I really put to mind, like, and make a conscious effort, days before her yahrzeit, I become speechless. I become like, wow, like beyond blown away from her life and all the dedication, all the misras nefesh, the infinite patience she showed everyone, the infinite love she showed everyone. Hopefully take hachlatas from the Rebbe, who gave us specific hachlatas for in memory and in her legacy, and to help her living legacy live on. Thank you, Yehudis Eichenblatt, for reaching out to me and saying, let's do something. When I, during that time period, it was way after. So my friend wrote some books on the Rebbetzin, and I remember I was giving her my CDs and she was giving her books, and it was like the first introduction to the Rebbetzin, and I was so moved by her. I don't have all my books here in LA yet, but I try to buy some of the memories of those stories and some that I looked and listened to classes online. So I will share it with you today. And definitely we're going to make hachlatas here. And hopefully we're going to be at a newer level because of her and her life. So one of the videos that I read, kind of the translation from the Rebbe, was during this time, the Rebbe's asking us right now to pay attention and increase in our brotherly love in her merit. And this is really connected with the living shall take to heart. When we're talking about a person, the Rebbe says that was her whole life. She took the living to her heart. And that's part of her name. It's actually on the tombstone, and our being able to perpetuate her name in our trying to take an example. Yeah, so that we will be able to, be that living legacy here on earth and continue her life on earth. Once someone commented to the Rebbe, I heard she was a wonderful, wonderful woman. and really celebrate it, that we have life. And this way, when we have this introspection and we actually take into account the purpose of our life and what we could do to emulate her ways, then this is paying tribute to her life. This is paying tribute to her legacy. And especially, the Rebbe pointed out, those who carry her name. But we all, Bezrat Hashem, after today, will take her name and live her example. And you can ask yourself, like, how really, like in one word, to live her legacy is to have an uninterrupted life of a living example, like every second. Because if we take the time and educate ourselves according to her teachings and according to her example. I remember one time I heard this story. I can't even tell you how I was just like wowed by this story. She was crossing a street, and then there was some kind of situation where someone else was in danger of their life, and she pushed them. I think it was a bomb. And she pushed him.
Because they were running away from the...
Yes. How the depth of her soul, she wanted to always 100% in even a situation that anyone wouldn't even think to do tshuva, of having pushed someone to save their life. There was another story I was hearing from Rebbetzin Khan, who's a relative of the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin. And they were together in the house, and the Rebbetzin was showing like the gifts of what the shluchim had sent her. And she's like, I don't know why they're sending it to me. They're so busy, and yet they have time to remember me and send me these things. It's like, I can't believe it. And the Rebbetzin Khan actually, was like, no, you mean a lot to them. But again, the Rebbetzin was like, but they're so busy. And she actually was kind of, not understanding Rebbetzin Khan's, experience of explaining that how dear the Rebbetzin is to all the shluchim. And then she responded, the Rebbetzin, and says, if you only understood how busy these shluchim are, you I guess you don't understand how busy they are, that this is like really a tall order.
She's getting another phone.
Yes, so we're going to get another phone for those of you who are out there on the phone line. Please, God, and you'll be able to... Yes, thank you. It's kind of every time I hear that beep, I'm like thinking the beat of her heart, the beat of her life. Like, how can we catch up to her beat? Like, it was just so fast.
Thank you.
We always... and be so connected to them as if nothing in the world has to be done and nothing else has on my to-do list to pay attention to but that person, eye to eye, especially in this generation. Like, if we could just now not look at our phone one take a hachlet, one less second when someone's talking to us, even if you're in the middle typing something away, put the phone down. You'll be able to finish the typing. They're approaching you. Look eye to eye at them. The to-do lists and the things that we have to get done and the conversations that can just be lost at the moment. Hearing women that it's very hard for them even when their husband goes to daven in a minyan, like, you know, and but yet what did she do her whole life? And I'm still like beyond impressed when she would wait till 4 a.m. almost every night until the Rebbe would come home to make sure that she had a warm home with warm food, with a warm atmosphere of her special. %100% focus on the daughters of the doctor who was about to get engaged.
Wow.
Like, how is she? How is the couple doing? When is the wedding? Tell me about it. With just like, you know, like nothing else is happening in her life, that she's really suffering and in pain. She never thought about herself.
Turn this off. This one. That's it. So this one's on now. This one's good.
Okay. It was always about someone else. And she always tried to build people up and valuing them. To live her legacy and to live the life that our heart, everything in our heart's desire for good, for the Jewish people, for our family, for our community, for ourselves. From our heart, we will give it to her heart. Every moment we have that moment of iskafia, not giving in to a look, or giving in to looking eye to eye, making the most of that moment and not really letting it go. Shabbos day, last week and 2 weeks ago, it was Shabbat. Every day we can live a life of pleasure. And that is the pleasure of living now. Not being bombarded by yesterday and what I didn't do and how I should have. And okay, we can look in a minute of tshuva before Shema L'Mitah and Hashem Nom Baganu and make amends and look at what could be tomorrow better. But that's like a prescribed moment. And actually the Rebbe says not more than 5 sentences long. Because if you look at the Tehillim, in 5 sentences, the David HaMelech goes from his sorrow of whatever to happiness and joy. So it's like a joyful experience of looking of what could be, but that's done. It's over. The whole day is Shabbos.
Wow.
So to live a pleasurable life on earth is to live the now, to be free from the past. To say, and not already in your head planning what are you going to say to them, and not even really listening to them. The bonding is the most crucial, and not anything but that key ingredient will make them maybe down the road be open to your suggestions, because most people don't really want your suggestions. We have to do the next thing. So, okay, you're calling me, you want the advice? Here it is. No. Just forget about the advice. Just really take the Rebbitzins' legacy. Live the life of the moment. Experience the pleasure of the now and making the infinite moment wondrous. So this comes actually, I was reading Rabbi... and many other books. And one of his books is called Master of Time. And in this Parsha book, he also talks about this idea of Master of Time. And he talks about the different ways a person can live their life. There's the way in which they are living a life very linear, just going forward. And then there's a type of person who lives their life in a circular way. They realize, okay, again I have Shabbat, and again I have to take the kids to school, and it's just kind of circular and could be a bit robotic, And then there's the living the life in a spiral way, which means you're going through the Shabbat, but now it's like a spiral. It's elevated. It's never the same as before, and it's really much more. With joy, with more appreciation than last week's Shabbat, with more paying attention, not to let the mundane enter, not to let the past enter, not to let the future enter, and live the moment of now.
Wow.
And so you're doing the same thing. It's this kind of the same thing. It's Shabbos. It's the same cleaning for Pesach, but you're doing it in a more wholesome way, a more lovable way, whatever. But it's different. It's not on the same plane. It's higher. So,
like the Torah, that we are constantly...
Right, we're constantly getting the Torah anew every day. action to try to be close to her.
I've seen her WWE.
So like a lot. So like, and Abigail had infinite patience. She was a little more grounded than he, and she said she pushed his hand away, I think, or at least the vision that I remember is that she made the statement that now's not the time. Like, we are destined to be together, but and she kind of put it to a standstill, that gesture of his, and saved the day. And later on, she did get married to him, but it was she. Love the people you're around. Enjoy the process of getting to the wedding. How many times? So here are 3 stories. The Rebbe brings down in a Sikha. When you hear these stories, and you think of Rebbe Chaim and Mushka's legacy of being able to be totally present and not rushing ahead into the future. I mean, imagine how much she had to get done in her busy life. All throughout the generations of history and time, that people would know that he didn't make a huge feast, he would have said, to heck with what people think. This is my heart. I'm going to live what my heart wants me to do and not worry that I'm going to look like a show-off or whatever. Second story the Rebbe brings out. And this has to do with Ruth and Boaz. Boaz, literally, and Yosef is about to be killed. But he decides to stand up and like make it known to them, like, why take destiny in our hands? We'll put him in a pit and let's see what happens to him. Let's see what destiny, if he'll be eaten up and not that, then God will do it, because it'll happen and God will do it, not us. Why should we have blood on our hands, right? So then he why did he do this? Because he thought, wait a minute, I don't want to look holier than thou to my brothers. I don't want to say this is a wrong thing. I don't want to say that I'm having another class. And many times I don't want to post. But you know how many times I end up posting and then people come and then they like share how happy they are? Should I be a strong, energy of like, let's just have Mashiach days now or like, oh, I'll just keep to myself like a Mashiach day. Like, it's my children are just ruly and just like, he's fed up. Complains to her, he's always annoyed at her day after day. And every day he has to see his neighbor. His neighbor always with a smile, walking his children to the bus. The children are so well behaved and always smelling the delicious breakfast, homemade, and always coming you know, if you look at Chaf Beis Shvat and you look at her, I was listening to Saratova Bess, she does these video clips, amazing.
wonderful.
And she was bringing down the concept of the Chaf Beis, is that that is also connected to her name. So Chaya Mushka, if you look at the name, it's Chaya is her life, which represents and 12. 12 being, yes, Chaf Beis, sorry about that.
10 and 11 was the Friedeker, but I think
Right.
that's what he was saying.
Okay, sorry, you're right. But the 11 is beyond the world, and 12 is even more beyond. The 12 tribes, the whole.
Maybe it's 11 and 11.
No, it's 10 and 12 is Chaf Beis, is 12. 12 and 10. Anyway, so the idea is to.
So, I don't have a Tanya in front of me. Micha, if you have a Tanya, that would be great. Not I could,
Which one do you want?
the Tanya for today?
May.
Yeah, if you have.
And thank you all for joining. And
if
thank
you have a
really.
Chiyana, that's great.
Wow.
Yeah.
For Michla, for the last minute
Thank
like
you.
that, when we said we are going to have the conference,
Yeah.
and she was like, oh, let's do it at our house. I'm like, wow.
Yes.
Baruch Hashem.
So it's a holy day. So one of the things that I've been getting from the Tanya of the last few days is what you were talking about, how we can connect to Hashem and we can connect with ourselves to higher levels at any moment. So when you say Chaya Yechida, what does that mean? We have a part of our soul that's beyond us, that we don't necessarily relate to or feel all the time, but we have sometimes some little like inspiration moments, and that comes from the higher part of our soul that we don't have fully conscious access to. That's even beyond our consciousness, and so that we can connect to Hashem, to God at that moment in a higher, better way, right? We know we can be present just physically, right? Just be conscious of our physicality. Or we can be present on an emotional level, and we can develop ourselves on a physical level. We can develop ourselves emotionally. We can be present on an intellectual understanding level, and we can develop that in many ways. And then there's our part of us that's beyond our intellect, which is our chaya, which is our emunah, which is our trust, our belief. It's our pleasure, and it's our will. And we can, in the higher part of our soul, it's our belief in God, it's our pleasure in God, and it's our will to do God's will. That's the highest level of chaya. And then beyond that is our yechida, which is our essence. So we always have the possibility of tuning into our chaya and yechida, which is those parts that are beyond our conscious mind even. So, and the Tanya is trying to teach us how to do that. So, and one of the fast, short ways, right? He said there's the long way. The long way is to meditate on God and learn about God and learn tons of Chassidus and sit and meditate on it and do that. Really, really put our mind to it. That's the long way. The short way is just even to remember that we have a godly soul and that we're connected to God and that we want to stay connected to God at this moment. Just that memory, that thought, that can be enough to get us to connect on that level of our chaya, of our emunah, our belief, our pleasure, and our will in God. And so that's, the underneath what's going on in the Tanya of the last few days. But Shabbos' Tanya was incredible. It was talking about how we can, when we do a mitzvah, we're connecting to God's will, right? So, but it's not just, okay, when we think about what does it mean connecting to God's will? He explained there's different things that are connecting to God's will. There's different aspects, and there's 4 levels of things that are connecting to God's will. So, you could turn it off. Okay, so what are the 4 levels that the Alter Rebbe talks about on the 20th of Shvat of leap year, chapter 23 of Tanya? He says like this. First of all, the mitzvah itself, the commandment. Let's say the physical thing that you're taking, the piece of tzedakah, the citron fruit as an example. You're taking that thing that God wants, and that has a life force and an energy that you're connecting it to God's will. You're showing this is what God wants at this moment to be done with this. This is not just an object. This is, this home is not just a home. This is a home that's hosting a beautiful shir. This is not just a cell phone that has Facebook on it. This is a phone that has Facebook that's doing God's will. This is a woman who's not just beautiful. She's beautiful because she's hosting a beautiful class and she's doing God's will. There's a lot of things going on. Okay, so that's, yes. So that, and Miriam's mind is not just a brilliant mind. It's a mind that's, doing God's will. So and all of us here, we did everything we did to do this mitzvah of being here together is connecting that, all the objects, your cars that brought you here, your clothes, the food that you ate this morning, everything's being elevated, showing this is God, what God wants us, the physicality of, okay, so that's that. Then there's your body part that actually did the mitzvah, your legs that came here, your arms that moved everything to make it, your ears, your eyes, your heart, everything that you used, your body parts to do this mitzvah that we're here to be here together, that's all being elevated, so our body parts. Then there's the energy of our body, okay? It took us energy to actually get out of our comfort zone and actually come over here and we stopped doing other things and we made sure to, it took an effort. So all that effort is being elevated, is revealing God's will in the world, uniting with God's will, showing what God's will is in the world to us to be together here for bringing in for the Rebbetzin. And then there's also the godly soul. So we have a godly neshama. Till now we talked about the physical body and the vital soul, the actual physical energy that we have in our body. And then there's the godly soul, the spiritual neshama part of us that also went into this mitzvah, that we're the consciousness, the godly awareness that we're having. And it's revealed through our physical activity. It's the physical garment, but it's really our godly soul. That's the inspiration that's creating this idea, this will, this belief, this pleasure to do God's will right now. So that's all being elevated right now when we're doing a mitzvah. It's all revealing God's will in the world. It's because a mitzvah is what God wants us to be doing. So we're revealing this is what God wants us to be doing right now. This is God's will. So that was Shabbos. Yesterday's Tanya was about how Torah is even more of a revelation of God's will, because Torah, it is more of a revelation of God, because Torah is God's will itself. Torah is God's wisdom, will and wisdom. So a mitzvah is like, okay, you're taking the object and you're showing this. God revealed himself through, this cell phone right now when it's being used. So we're using this for mitzvah, or of us, that's an even more we're even connecting more to God's will, because of putting God's will within us. We're not just connecting to the expression of God's will. So that was a little summary of yesterday's Tanya, and he says also over there that 2 days ago actually, that the Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they actually were like called chariots to God, because they were able to reveal God's will all the time in all their body parts. It's very interesting, because I was watching the Shluchos banquet last night a little bit, and you could see some of these women, they are constantly revealing God's will in the world. This is just who they are. They're, this woman, Alevsky, I think it was, she was talking about how many years ago when she was a little girl, the Rebbe gave her an answer to a letter that she wrote when she was like 13 for her birthday, and the Rebbe asked her what activities is she doing with the girls in her area during the summer, and she realized from that moment that she is representing and doing the Rebbe's will. She's a shlucha. She was an emissary, and she said that is with her all the time. Wherever she is, she recognizes she's representing the Rebbe's will wherever she goes. So it's an amazing thought to think that it's like I would see her like she's a chariot, like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They're a chariot. They're constantly in that motion of doing God's will. Most of us are in potential, able to, that if something comes up, we're on the ball, we can go for it. But some people, it's like it's the constant consciousness. So that's our forefathers, and also not only they were doing it with one body part, they were doing it with all their body parts. Another thing that hit me last night when I was watching a little bit, I didn't watch the whole thing, but it's, when women are talking about themselves even, that they are the Nashim Tzidkanios, they are the righteous women of their generation, that talks about in the prophecies that it will be the righteous women of the generation who will redeem us from this exile, right? So these women have no problem talking about themselves as these righteous women. It's not, because it's not an ego thing. Right. It's just the reality. It's just a fact. So it's not. It's right. It's a job. Exactly. So that was a beautiful thing. And so today's Tanya. Let me just open, because I don't.
Miriam, do you need my?
Yeah, because I'm going to do the meditation.
Oh. Do you want to close it first and then do it again, or give it?
No, so people can hear. It's a worldwide conference.
Oh.
And also on Facebook, yes, like, thank God. One time I gave a class somewhere and 2,000 people listening.
Looks like Michla learns Tanya really well. There's a lot of notes over here.
You contact everybody?
This contacts directly to the whole world who's on my friends list. So I have almost 1,800 people on my list of friends.
This is not your phone. This is your phone.
But this is not.
That's her phone.
So this is recording. It's okay.
Okay. Okay, today is the 22nd of Shvat. The question is this the leap year one for today? Or the page 305 on this?
This is what I have in Tanya.
Oh, thank you. I'll use it from here. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so what he's saying is that this is for leap year, right? Because
It should be automatic.
Yeah, it should be automatic.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, I'll read it, okay?
Yeah.
Since the divine will, which is in perfect unity with God himself, stands completely revealed in the divine soul and in its inner garments, its thought and speech, while a person occupies himself with words of Torah, and there's nothing obscuring, concealing the divine will at that time. We're learning Torah. This is God's will, what we're learning. For when one studies Torah, the divine will and wisdom contained in it comes into full expression in one's soul and in the faculties also of the thought and the speech. What I'm speaking now is God's will. What I'm thinking now is God's will. What you're thinking right now is God's will. So it's revealed. It follows that at that time, the soul and these garments of thought and speech are also truly united with God. So our thought and speech right now are united with God, with a unity comparable to that of God's speech, thought, with his essence being, as explained above. So it's a unity of like God's thought and speech with himself. It's the same thing. It's just through us. God's thought and speech is expressed through us. Mm-hmm. For nothing is separate from God, except insofar as his countenance is concealed. So nothing is apart from God, and nothing is hidden from God. So only then can created beings perceive themselves as distinct entities, since there is no such concealment when one studies the Torah, one attains thereby perfect unity. So he says, when God created the world, he created concealment. But when one is learning Torah, nothing's concealed. The Torah is God's revelation. So there's nothing concealing God at that moment in his thought and in his speech. Moreover, the unity of the divine soul and its faculties with God that is attained through Torah study is even more exalted and more powerful than the unity of God's infinite light with the upper spiritual worlds. So when we're here learning Torah, we're doing something on a higher level than the angels are doing up in heaven. Why? For the divine will is actually manifest in the soul and its garments, our soul and our garments of thought, speech, and speech, that are engaged in Torah study, since it is identical with the Torah being studied. The Torah itself is being studied is God's will and wisdom, is being expressed right now. Whereas in the spiritual worlds where the angels are, they're just receiving the vitality from a ray of light and life that's derived from God's Torah. They're in a receiving mode. They're not in actual engaging in learning Torah mode where they're getting God's will and wisdom in their mind. Like they're less, yes. Right. When we're learning Torah, they're less than us. Now, God's wisdom is thus the source of vitality for all the worlds. All the worlds, meaning that it is at a level that cannot become clothed within the worlds, but rather animates and illuminates them as if from a distance, from above, in a transcending and encompassing manner. Why? Because Torah is beyond the worlds and it can't really necessarily penetrate. And it is this level which transcends all the worlds that is clothed in a truly revealed form when? In one's soul, when he's studying Torah. So this high light of God, the Torah, which is so beyond the world and can't be really revealed through the world itself can't reveal Torah. Only we, through learning Torah with our soul, with our mind, we can actually reveal God's will and wisdom. So all the worlds, the spiritual worlds, all the spiritual worlds, from the highest world to this lowest world, can't reveal it. Only we can reveal God's Torah as it is, God's will, even though he does not see it. So a person who is learning Torah doesn't actually see what he's doing, doesn't see what he's revealing. When one studies Torah, he's unable to consciously experience the unity of a soul with God, which is attained, right? But, or he doesn't feel it. We're not feeling this unbelievable unity with God necessarily. Yet, in fact, this is precisely why we can endure this unity. We have such a unity, and we're still here, and we're still eating and enjoying ourselves and living in our bodies and breathing and talking, because we don't they can't exist like we are in bodies. This discussion of the exalted unity with God attained through Torah study, which is even greater than that accomplished by performing the mitzvahs, explains why Torah study is so much loftier than all the other commandments, including even prayer, which affects unity within the supernal worlds. Prayer has an effect on the higher worlds. Even it's like a very high sublime thing. You could be changing things in the world, in your life, in other people's life, and the higher worlds through prayer. What? Yeah, but still, Torah is a higher level of unity with God. Why? And even though you can interrupt Torah study to learn to pray, the Alter Rebbe explains the only reason. He's talking right now about prayer, that Torah study is also higher than prayer, than mitzvahs and prayer. But here's talking about prayer in today's time, because prayer, even though it would seem and a l'chaim to good health, and all those who need a refuah shlema quickly, Mashiach should come immediately. Nobody should have pain, suffering, any difficulty, any concealment. Only God revealed in this world, 100% to everyone. And we'll do our shlichus. We'll keep the Rebbe and the Rebbetzins commitment to the world alive. Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Okay, wow, thank you so much.
Yes, L'chaim, thank you so much for coming, and thank you, Miriam,
Oh my gosh.
for inspiring us and lighting up our souls, shining our souls.
I
And
guess we'll do a meditation.
yes, meditation. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's squeeze in here. By the way, there's so much holiness up in Shemayim, like so much holiness. But why isn't it really holy up there and holier down here? So the explanation is, like the mountain that is higher up and there's less atmosphere. So you need the atmosphere to contain the heat. And if there's no atmosphere, then there's no place. Are you okay? There's no place to be able to absorb the Kedusha of that sun. So the idea is that down here, Hashem wants the Kedusha everywhere, but down here there's the atmosphere of the physicality that allows for the Kedusha to be contained. So even though you're on a high mountain and you think I should be feeling warm, I'm so much closer to the sun, but it's not the case. So next time you get a little bit... Next time you get a little challenged by the next opportunity, the next mitzvah to serve your husband, even though he came so late, and you want to close the door and you want to go to sleep, and how dare he want you to get up and help him. Think about the Rebbetzin. Think about how she would do it with love and a whole and happy heart, with a kind word, with an encouraging spirit. And think that physical deed is what's going to allow the Kedusha to stay here on earth. That's a living legacy to the Rebbetzin today. When we make a dira b'tachtonim, when we create a home and an atmosphere for godliness to reside in that deed, in our home, in our mind, it's one. I don't get this, like, nah, it just doesn't make sense to me, and like, no, just bittul, humbleness, open space, allowing that space for godliness. Then you could be like a spiritual gas station, and you can fill up and fill up and fill up. And then when you fill up and fill up your mind, then it's getting pouring down into your heart. And from the heart of your godly love that's inspired and your emotion of awe and wonderment of just the chance to do another thing. How many videos sometimes people see of people without arms and just feet, and they're doing everything with their feet? Like, it's like, whoa, I have a chance to do it with these arms of mine. And then that love in your right part. The nigunim here, so I have an easy travel case here. I mean, imagine, it's such a cute thing. Like, it's so cute, and it's a speaker. Mashiach, wow. Okay. I'm gonna make it lower. Sometimes it's too loud and people can't hear, even though you might not be able to hear because it's being recorded. So I'll put it in the middle more.
Where did you get this? Where did you buy it from?
It was an iWatch. Oh no, actually it wasn't an iWatch. That was a
Online? You bought it online?
yeah. It's an iPod, but it's for your watch. But now they have it on iWatches, but that's not an iWatch yet. Oh my gosh, not another thing to charge up. I know they did research that like people get anxiety when their batteries get low. It's a real problem. Like people have to go to AA meetings. Oh my gosh. Anyways.
Things that they did not work
Oh
on.
my gosh.
Batteries.
Oh my gosh.
They go to the moon,
Oh
but
my gosh.
batteries.
Oh my gosh. We have to laugh. We have to laugh. Let's live a life of Shabbos every day. And that's being present. No past, no future, the pleasure of now. And my heart to your heart, Rebbetzin Chaim Mushka, for everything you did in self-sacrifice for us. for just even the holy books, Didan Noitzach Day, when she went out of her way to be a public person and stand up for what was right. For us to have those books today, for everything that she did. Undercover, secret agent, the list goes on of what she did. So let's get into that mode. Take the living to heart. Celebrate every day like it's your birthday, because you have another birth, a newer, better version of you, the higher order soul. And so with that energy, you can close your eyes, get in a comfortable position, uncross your legs. And again, just feel the revelation of that breath of yours. Wow. What revelation when you're going to say such good words, sweet words, kind words. To the transcendent part of your soul that's going to influence your active souls that are in one. Chaya Mushka. Bringing that oneness. And with every breath you take, you just begin to feel a wave of relaxation from that tranquility. Is just really all around you, embracing you like a cocoon of love. And take a moment and see the picture of the Rebbetzin in your mind's eye. Look deeply into her eyes. And you get deeper into her soul and her life. Take the moment to take her life to your heart. Maybe remember a story, something that touched you deeply about her life. And think about the Rebbe's Hora'ah, the Rebbe's instruction to us. A beautiful place, and you really see her at a distance. You step closer to her, preparing yourself for this moment. What would you say to her? What would you give from your heart to her heart? What commitment you can say, I'm going to be a part And with her strength, you feel inspired. You feel like you have the courage. And you're definitely going to try your hardest to live the life of the moment, to be present. And you're walking side by side with her. You're yearning to continue to be an example, have her feel so proud of your efforts. You feel such a peace, and you feel the peace of her in you. And you're taking her to heart. And your hachlatas is going to be a gift from your heart to her heart. And as you begin to walk with her, she's coming with you. She's always with you. And you begin to feel yourself moving away from this beautiful place, but she's with you. You begin to see a vision of everything that you discussed with her and every hachlata, and that you're seeing it coming into fruition. Their appreciation. You feel your heart calmly beating because you have so much to live for. With all of the Rebbitzins' legacy in your heart. And then you begin to smile. A smile beyond a mile long. You're not to her heart. And it will spill over to all the hearts of those you love.
Thank you.
And as you remember the commandment, thou shalt not murder, you think the very sensitive souls would hear, thou shalt not shame. And the even more sensitive at the moment slip away, and we won't have the feeling, oh, had I known. right? All right, my dear soul sisters and all those who tuned in and Bais Chana and Facebook. Really, thank you for letting me share what has helped me so much, and may we just have a beautiful rest of the day, every day. I always say, have the greatest day ever today, every day.
Amen. Amen.
All right, and all this, thank you, everyone who came, everyone who, wow.
Do it again.
Yes, definitely.
What's the next Yom Tov here?
The next Yom Tov!
Which one is
Oh my
it?
gosh. Their neshama.
Are you gonna?
So I invite you there.
Are you gonna be here on the Rebbe's birthday? Yud Aleph Nisan, or are you gone? You'll be here. It's like
And then,
4 days before.
right.
You might be on the way.
March, I will be, I think mid-March, I'll be in New York for like a month. So, but I'll still take this phone with me and do whatever I do on the line. And then, so we have like, I'll be here for another, like, I think it's about 6 weeks or so, 5 weeks. So we'll see what Yom Tov comes up after that. Oh, yeah.
For the Rebbe's birthday?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Bezrat Hashem. Oh, I can announce that we're doing Pesach not in Ventura this year. They're doing it in San. Maybe you can join. That would be amazing. Can you imagine to meet people like that I through Facebook that I've been in touch with? It's really amazing program. Like if I can just say one thing, the Rebbe used to say, like that Pesach, because it's so soon, but Pesach is a commemoration. It used to be like more of a commemoration of what was, and now Pesach is more like a commemoration. Like a practice rehearsal dinner of what will be. So when I heard this message, and I was learning this in 7-7, I'm like, yes, let me practice what will be like when Mashiach comes. I'm not going to have to work so hard. I'm going to be like served. So I came home to my husband, I'm saying, that's it. This is an easy horah of the Rebbe. I am going to live Geula now and practice what it's going to be like when Mashiach comes, when I don't have to do as much hard work. So he goes, oh my gosh. What? Then that next day or two, my neighbor says, I have a This is back to back. The Rabbi Sperlin is amazing, and there's Shoshana Bander who usually comes and she does the music. Or if you want to be part of it and do something at this retreat, I'll definitely.
Maybe I could come Chol Hamoed.
Yeah. There's
close
Chol
enough.
Hamoed things to do. There's Rat Hashem. They have singers that every year come that are and theater performances. Anyway, so hopefully I get to see everyone there. In the meantime. Let's celebrate.
Most Chodesh, you go in the same place on...
Boutel, yeah, the same place, yeah. All right, it's hard to say goodbye, but bye. Bye-bye. I'll just see, wow, Baruch Hashem. Yes, I'll turn off, I'll just do part-time.
So much. It was a great class. Thank you so much.
It's not like you turn off. How do you turn off?
Oh, I just have to turn it off first. Yeah. And that's part of her name. It's actually on the
Keep your video and your story for 24 hours.